Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. Happy New Year, David. Anything new that you rang in for the new year?
Thanks, Jesse. Happy New Year to you. I don't know, just good to get some time off with family, and now it's kind of nice to get back live and get things going again. So I'm looking forward to an exciting 2025. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're kicking it off in a really good way because we have a really awesome guest and already been able to talk to him a little bit pre show. So I know it's going to be a great discussion. But today on Deconstructing Data, we are thrilled to welcome on Todd Smith. He is the CEO of Core AI. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here on the first show of the year, right? So here I am.
yeah, it is our first show of the year, our 132nd episode.
Wow.
So we've been doing this a while, but we're really excited to have you join us, Todd. So I'd love for you to kick it off and give our listeners and viewers a little information about you, your background. You and I have done some business together in the past, so I know a little bit, but I think our listeners would love to hear more. And then tell us about Core AI and what you guys are doing today.
Sure. I love it. My background, I grew up in the car industry. I've spent 30 some years. Oh my gosh, I started at 1990 is 2025. So that's a lot of years actually in the automotive business. Worked my way up through retail. Spent my years learning to sell cars, manage car dealerships. I owned a Chevy store in North Jersey, sold that, but I've always loved technology, and I've been a part of a couple startups in the space. I've exited two. The last one I exited was called Active Engage, largest managed live chat provider. Now I'm back at it again. Obviously, I don't sit around on beaches very well. I always love, to be active. And one of the things after, taking time off, I spent a lot of time with dealers and what problems do they really need to solve? And Core AI, the goal of it was to help organize the dealers' data so they would be able to take advantage of this future around AI, because without data organization, AI is not going to work. So our goal is to just empower dealers to get all their data centralized, meaning CRM, DMS, web data all in one spot that they can actually use it. So.
Awesome. I love the journey, and I learned something new today, Todd. I didn't know you had a dealership up in northern New Jersey. That's where I'm from.
Oh yeah, where at?
I'm from Ramsey.
Okay, yeah, so right around the corner. I was in Westwood. So.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah, and I lived down like in Edgewater, so north of like Hoboken.
Yep.
Yeah, right there, literally overlooking the St. Moritz building, overlooking the Empire State Building, and what is it, 74th Street Boat Basin down in front of me. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
good stuff. And I'm interested to learn more about Core AI. I'm interested to also dig into our first topic, though, because AI and its impact on data is interesting, because I'm always talking to people about the importance of things like data quality and things like that in order to power your AI, right? Because garbage in, garbage out, and that's something we've always lived by, but it becomes exponentially important when you're talking about AI. But this topic, to me, I'd love to hear what your intention was with this topic with respect to AI and its impact on data. It kind of sounds like the reverse to me. So I'm interested to hear what you want to talk about there.
Yeah, look, I agree with 100% that it's so important. A lot of times, and we hear so much about AI now, and AI is going to power this, and AI voice tools doing that, and AI responding to emails and text messages, and AI. But once you kind of peel back that, I think the realization is AI is like electricity. It's not a product. And for electricity to flow, you need really good wires. And the better the wire, the better it's going to be, the better you can use it. And I look at data as the wires. And as you dig into automotive, where I live, there's a lot of data, but as you just said, there's a lot of really bad data. So I think the first thing we learned and we're trying to work through was, how do we get the data into one spot? How do we normalize it? How do we format it? How do we clean it, augment it, and then put it again in a structure that AI can leverage it? Part of it could be vectoring that data, or just setting up the tables that AI could actually leverage it. And I think in automotive, for dealerships to truly be able to leverage AI, they're going to have to first get control of their data. And you can't do it if your data is split across 4, 5, 6 systems with duplication of data. You have to organize it into, for us, we look at like a single entity for AI to be effective. So I kind of look at it all as, I love AI, but I look at it as electricity that's going to power everything. But in the end, it will never work without good wiring. And I think dealers have to be focused on that first, right? So it's like a step process. So first thing is, for us, bring in data, normalize it. I can give you a good example. We're just working with a large dealer group. They had 1.4 plus million records in their data lake. That actually resolved to only 647,000 real people. I think 1.3% of the people were deceased in their original data file. There was tons and tons of duplications. It was not uncommon to find 4 to 16 of the same person. So I think organizing that is such a critical part. And I don't think the average business realizes the value of data hygiene first. And for us, we realized that, everything moving forward, you got to start with that powerful, to me, centralized base.
Yeah, I love that analogy. AI is like electricity. It's I'm going to use that one.
Well, you think about it, it really is, right? I think a lot of times many people are still looking at AI as like a product. Like, it's like a product to do a function. And that's not what AI is. AI is, for us, we look at it as a way to take an existing product or piece of data and make it faster, more intelligent, find pattern matching inside the data, do all those things. And I think that's the transition that needs to happen. And I equate it a lot to, and David, you're like, I think we're the same age or close. And I would look at when the internet first came out, I think probably our vernacular was like, we got on the internet, right? We dialed up. And now the internet is connected to any device we touch. We don't get on the internet anymore. It's pervasive in every platform we touch, whether it's our television, whether it's our handheld device, our phone, our computer. And it's funny because I'll still tell my son's 14. I'm like, hey, I gotta get on the internet. And my son's like, he looks at me with the strangest face, like, what are you talking about? Get on the internet. It's like, everything is connected. And I think we're still trying to put AI in a box when I think AI is going to be in everything we touch. Same as the internet is connected to every electronic device we touch.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that more and more. AI is becoming a part of everything that we touch. It's crazy. And it's only going to get to be more so. So I agree. And to your point, managing the flow of data into that AI is extremely important. It's crucial in order to make it all work.
Yeah, I look at that as such, that's the tip of the spear. And to get things right, to me, the business has to have very disciplined hygiene like process, into a kind of normalized schema that they can, use these tools. To me, it's like, it's the same. I think I wrote in an article once, I said that, the current data structure is like a horse and carriage, and you're entering an F1 race. The horse and carriage will finish the race. Everyone will be gone because the race will have been over for hours. And I look at that as the same, like the competitive business that are going to win this now are the ones that are going to get ahead of their data, organize their data, look at data as the most valuable asset of their business and not a kind of nice to have. It's going to be the must have that's going to fuel everything from marketing efficiency, operation efficiency. It's going to fuel everything we do inside any operation, whether it's a car dealership or take a pick on businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you touched on our second topic of data hygiene. So I think Jesse was going to say the
same. Yeah, I just jumped right in, right?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And it's a great segue. So we should dig a little deeper. Data hygiene is different to everyone, right? And there's sort of different layers of hygiene. And I think it's important for every every business to first figure out what does hygiene mean to them, and define that. Because you can't just go into it and say, let's clean up our data, right? You have to sort of define what are the guide rails that the data needs to fall under in order for it to be clean. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, and what do you run into when you're doing this? I know most of the work that you're doing is, right now is in the automotive space. What are the challenges there? What are they, that you're seeing?
Yeah. So look, I look at data hygiene. You're right. It can be very complicated, very fast. And if we break down data hygiene, especially in automotive, I look at like the critical pieces of data. Number one is email addresses. So, I mean, if we just look at statistics, right, email decays at about 2.5% a month, so 30+% annually. So thinking the average car dealer, 30% of the email addresses in their CRM, DMS are bad. They're then pulling them to send to marketing companies who's then delivering bad, results, or they're trying to send email campaigns out of their CRM. And to me, what most likely happens almost every time is, once you hit about a 10% bounce rate, the ISPs will throttle you. So your deliverability, they'll still send and quiet deliver. And you won't ever know because the customer's never going to see that. So, for let's say a car dealer sends 10,000 emails out of their CRM, maybe 3,000 are delivered, yet they're expecting results from a 10,000 email mailer. So I look at that as one critical thing. Another thing, especially in auto, is do they own the car? Now, I got to ask both you, Jesse and David, like, have you ever received a email, direct mail piece, phone call from a dealership asking about a car that you don't own anymore?
Yeah, haha, very funny. Probably every other day, right?
Right. So I look at this and look, this data can be cleaned up because this is critical data. Nothing is worse than sending or spending money to target someone that no longer owns that vehicle. A, you kind of look stupid, and two, you've just wasted money. So for us, okay, another key piece is, do they own the vehicle? So we want to check that. Obviously, do they still live at that same address? Because that can change, like especially around like managing my PMA, my primary marketing area for the dealership. So are these customers truly in my PMA, or have they moved somewhere else? Because this determines, what my penetration in the market should be, how many cars I should be selling. All those factor in to my success. So that's another thing on this hygiene journey that we want to kind of keep a close monitoring to. And then for us, there's lots of things inside the actual, DMS data, transactional data. We want to make sure that process stays clean. Last time they touched us, what did they spend? What did they get done? We like to look at things all the way down to, the op codes. Did they turn down certain work, declined service, repair business, like declined tire rotation, declined alignment? Because once we understand all that, then it's much easier to be able to target those niche kind of needs inside the market. So, but I look at hygiene as that piece of the business that, again, one, it's either completely overlooked. Two, it only happens when they change vendor. 3, it only happens when they change like, their DMS or CRM, and they try to take all the bad data out of the one, and then they kind of mash it into the new one. So it's like you've taken all your diseased data and you just infected the new host. We see it all the time. And this is that point where I think dealers need actually their own, I will say like an AWS infrastructure of their data that's being pulled from all the different services the dealer is using into one place that is keeping it hygiened, keeping it what I call evergreen, right? Keeping the data evergreen where, it's constantly being renewed, updated. So the dealer is optimizing marketing spend, optimizing accuracy.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you sort of sharing with us your sort of bucket list of items to look for with respect to hygiene in the automotive space. And I think for our listeners that are in other areas, whether it be e-commerce or retail, I think it all applies. There'll be a few things that may be different, but it's still, the whole point is to sort of build that bucket list. What are those items that are most important with respect to your hygiene in order for you to make sure that you're reaching the right people and able to reach them. And so I think that's an important point when we talk about data hygiene, is just sort of mapping that out first. And I appreciate you sharing that.
100%. Yeah. Anything else on data hygiene that we'd want to get into? I mean, we talked specifically about automotive, and I loved the AI as electricity analogy, and how, what did you say about the wires? The wires are
The wires are the data, right?
the
Like,
data. Yeah.
yeah, look,
Yeah.
if you want electricity to flow, you need a good wire, right?
Yeah.
And if a wire is split, if a wire has been exposed, you get leakage, energy leakage along the way, and then it becomes inefficient. And I view like data is that today for us. And I mean, if we look outside auto, we just look in general, data is by far to me the most valuable thing on this planet. And if we look at big companies, at the value of, let's say, Google versus Amazon versus Facebook, and we actually look at their market valuation, we can tie how much data they have to who's worth more. And it's super interesting when you actually look at it, because I see data as that one true like value versus money, where your customer base is your gold. It is the most valuable thing. It's in auto, I think it's more valuable than the real estate. It's more valuable than the cars on the lot. It's more valuable than the infrastructure. It is it, because without your customers and knowledge about your customers, you really don't have anything. I mean, you could open a car dealership and you have no customers. You got to go figure that out. It's super hard. But if you have a lot of customers, you open a car dealership, you instantly have people walking in the door. And I think it's changing a little bit of the mindset where dealers need to put data first. And if you put data first, or in any business, you put data first, I think you end up with a better organization. I think Amazon has applied this incredibly well with understanding their customers deeply, to understand what we buy, when we buy, how we buy things, in weird groups. And I don't know, David or Jess, have you guys ever been to an Amazon warehouse?
I
have not.
It is the craziest, most fascinating thing that you could ever. I'll put it on my, probably one of the top 10 coolest things like I've seen in business. And what stuck out to me most was, they have these picking systems where they pick like stuff out of bins. And if you would think the bins would be organized like a grocery store, right? Like here's all the, Fruit Loops boxes, or like here's all the cereal area. It's not. It'll be like, here's like granola bars, a workout like tool, a video. Like the bins look like people just threw junk in them. And I was like, what the heck is going on? They said, well, believe it or not, there's an incredibly high propensity that if they buy this, they buy this. So things are organized on behavioral buying patterns inside things.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
Wow.
And this is that point where I think all of us have to make that realization. And I think we've been discovering this at Core AI too, that, we all live in one of 74 cohorts, right? Like there's really only 74 cohorts of people. We think we're snowflakes, but we can be bucketed into one of these 74 cohorts. And inside these 74 cohorts, there is a string of hundreds of characteristics of how we behave. I'm eco-friendly. I may go for a plug-in or a hybrid. I like animals. Maybe a Subaru is like my thing because of the connection. Like all these behavioral attributes tie in together into these cohorts. And I think as these systems have learned so much about us, Google as well, obviously reading all our email. That's why the ads seem so targeted, because it's reading everything that we put.
Yeah.
AKA get Proton Mail or get something else, that your stuff is not being completely read, because it's like they're so ahead of us on the playbook. They're anticipating our needs before we even know what our needs are. And that to me is the power of data. And what we're seeing is some of these companies are just able to do it at an incredible scale. Now, to me, there's amazing lessons that we can bring down into our practical businesses. But it all starts with getting control of our data.
Yeah, because if you do not have data hygiene, then what you're scaling isn't going to be anything great.
Yeah, well, it just won't work. So
Yeah.
you'll get hallucinations, you'll get mistiming. It'll just be a mess. So to me, it all has to begin with very accurate ID'd consumers. And at that point, you build off of that. So I think, David, we were talking earlier, you've done a lot of work around identity. And so our identity was around stopping fraud at the dealer level. So using just the customer's phone number, pinging the carrier, returning to us, yes, this is this person, here's their legal name, here's their home address. Now let's do their ID, let's do OFAC, like all the additional back security checks around them to go, this is who this person is. I think once we have that resolution of who this person is, that confidence, then you build the data modeling around them. You have such a more accurate and more valuable understanding of the consumer. And at that point, I think marketing is able to achieve that true personalization that, we just haven't really seen. We see glimmer pieces of it, but some of the big companies, I think, are doing it in the background, but doing it, I think, in a very docile way that it doesn't frighten us, because I think they have far more intelligence about us than they let on, because I think it would freak people out.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you kind of have to do that because, to your point, it will freak people out. Like you can't just, go to any random website and have it be like, hey, Todd Smith, since you drive a BMW, here's this, you know what I mean? Like you just can't do that. It has to be more subtle than that.
Yeah, it's like Minority Report. Hey, you look like you gained 10 pounds. You might want to switch jeans. Like you're like, whoa, what are you talking about? Like, so this is that world that we're in today, and AI is just going to accelerate this and accelerate personalization. Because look, AI, the one thing that I look at it is that ability to do pattern matching at scale, that it can find the nuances in the data where humans just can't see it fast enough.
Yep.
Case in point, I can tell you in auto, if a consumer comes in, has not been into the service center for the previous at least 18 months, spends more than $500, and the car is over 3 years old, the propensity that they're going to trade or sell that car goes through the roof. So we understand that, but we would have never seen that unless AI made those correlations and understanding. Or knowing that once a technician marks that the consumer's brake pads are under 2 millimeters, we know that within sub 3,000 miles, they will get new brakes on the car at a 70%, because the squealers will be going off, and they'll need to do it for safety reasons. So being able to see these things where we weren't able to do it, but it's all driven by the data. So we need data to come in. We need to be organized. And we need to be able to put it in the format on a graph and vectoring it that you can leverage these amazing new algorithms.
That's exactly when you send out that mailer that says, your brakes are squeaking, call us.
Yeah.
There's 20% off.
How did you know? Well, look, I'll give you another just kind of fun example of this. So, we map and look at people who are visiting the website. And I think as you do as well with BDEX, where we can de-anonymize whatever percent. And if I could say, oh, this is Todd, Todd's a customer, Todd was on the service scheduler page, but I don't see him as an appointment. So now that could be flipped to business development center or salesperson tomorrow calls you up and say, hey, Todd just wanted to touch base with you, see if there's anything I could do for you. And that's when the consumer's like, oh, that's so crazy you called. I was just going to book an appointment, but my kid spilled something. I got distracted or I had to leave, or your form sucked because it asked for 19 fields and what the rattle was on my car. I couldn't map it to an opcode because I'm not a genius technician. All those things happen. And I think, that serendipity will happen more and more, where it's like right time, right conversation, right outcome, and it's customer delight. And I think if we can achieve more customer delight by being data-driven, it not only changes our businesses, it makes them far more profitable.
Well, I love that, because we do that all the time with our website visitors, right? So we have our tool for identifying anonymous website visitors, and so somebody comes to our website, and then we'll go and we'll link with them on LinkedIn or message them and just say, hey, I just wanted to introduce myself, and they'll be like, oh, hey, I'm so glad you got in contact with me. I was just at your website and I was looking into this, and just start a conversation. It's all just a coincidence.
It is that serendipity, happy experience, right? And I think
they're blown away. They just think it's a wild coincidence that we happen to reach out to them. So
right, and versus hey, David, I saw you visited 9 pages on our website and spent 42 minutes. You'd be like, whoa,
exactly.
So I think there's a balance in there, and it's just finding it to not creep people out, but use the data in a way that empowers a great experience for the consumer. And look, the more we know about the consumer, the more we can set up the experience. And this is where AI just can accelerate that. The more the AI understands, the more the AI can personalize it with, maintaining a level of professionalism and not drilling down into such a granular level that you freak out like Minority Report. So.
Well, unfortunately, that there will be some bad apples that will do that, and it'll scare the rest of them. But
I'll give you a perfect story of this. So when I had my Chevy store, I flew back and forth to Florida all the time, and on JetBlue, and I was reading an article how Earthlink was using chat to sell broadband subscriptions. This is like 2006. So back when broadband was a thing. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I could put chat on my dealer website. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So I found this company in Europe, this guy, Stephen Parker, who owns a company called Who's On, still exists today. And he had chat widget, and I put it on my website. And back then, it was awesome because Google gave you all the keywords, the customer. We had their geolocation. I had everything. I had every page that the customer is visiting. So he turned it on, and it was, I'm looking at it, and I still remember I'm sitting at my table. I'm looking at the Empire State Building. It's all lit up, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, someone's on my website. And with this software, I could send a personalized message. So it wasn't just a chat widget that popped up and said, how can I help you? I could type into a box, hey, I see you're looking at the Chevy Equinox, blah, 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 blah. So me being the aggressive car guy, first few people on the website, I'm like, hey, I see you're in Hillsdale. You're right around the corner from my store. And you're looking at, people were leaving my website like it was on fire. Every person I messaged instantly went dark and disappeared. So I was like, okay, this tactic is not working. So I went to the fridge, I got a beer, had to calm down. And then my approach became much more subtle. I basically said, hi, welcome, to DNC Chevy. We have tons of pre-owned Equinoxes in stock, and I have a couple more coming in if they were looking at Equinox. So I did this. I set 3 appointments that night. I went into my BDC. I had 8 people, my business development team. I trained them how to do it this way, and we crushed it. On average, we would generate 600 to 800 leads a month just from chat from our website. And I found that subtleness was so impactful. Even though we had all the data at hand, we kind of minimized it when we were in the consumer conversation.
Yep. That's a great
So what
story.
you're telling us, Todd, is that you were one of those bad apples at one point.
I was as bad
love
an
it.
apple as there. Listen, I was rotten to
I've
the
been
core.
there.
If I had the data, I would be like, oh, this guy looks like he's living in a trailer. I don't want him as a customer. Like I was absolutely that guy. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we all have to learn some way, but I appreciate your honesty. And I love this conversation. We've talked about AI, we talked about data hygiene. Before we wrap up, we need to make sure we talk a little bit about data augmentation specifically. Could you kick us off on this one?
yeah, I love this topic because any data you have probably is not enough. And I feel you need to augment your data. There's plenty, like obviously BDEX does this. We use like Equifax, we use S&P Global, we use all this aggregated data that just makes your business data, it amplifies it. And I think once you have that hygiene of your own data, it's really easy to sync up with outside data to make your data even more intelligent and more advanced. So things like being able to do like cohort data. So to understand that, this customer has all these additional characteristics that usually goes beyond the average business's internal data understanding. So, but if I know, hey, my customer is married, makes X a year, lives in this like area, has these preferences, likes dogs, potential like environmentalists, likes EVs, has passive income, all this intelligence that's available to us, how they're shopping on the internet, where they're shopping. All this can be boiled down into really actionable key pieces. And I think that this is like the last step of that process. I think, the beginning is the organization. I think it's then the hygiene and then keeping that evergreen. And then I think it's augmentation. And I think when you do that, again, just takes you to another level because now you have AI not only running on your data, you're running on all of this data as well. And as we all know, AI is like a intense, what I call data vacuum cleaner. And in fact, I think I saw recently, like all data will be consumed by AI by it's like 2034. So AI will have consumed every piece of data ever recorded. And that's actually frightening. But beyond that, I look at it that data or AI works best with more and more data, more and more understanding. And this is why, they've been feeding everything into OpenAI, from Reddit to books, probably illegally, all the way through that they're feeding these systems with whatever they can get into them. And I think for any business, being able to augment your data with trusted data to make your data more intelligent not only makes sense, it's that extra octane on your fuel that's going to give you the boost to beat the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good points. And we're running out of time, so I want to make sure we hit your tech stack because that's something we talked about before we went live. And I think that because you said you spend a lot of time researching a lot of products, we want to make sure that we find out what your favorite tools in your tech stack are.
Yeah, so I've been playing with HeyGen, which is
Mm-hmm.
GN, which is building. I've been working on building an AI clone of me. Not that I'm lazy. I just feel like I saw Reid Hoffman do it and I thought it was super cool. And I was like, wow, I could have an AI clone show up and do things. So I thought that was interesting. So I've been uploading all of my written, my videos, everything in, which is super interesting to start to build that out. Other things I write a lot on LinkedIn. So sometimes I was like, I need to build better like frames and formats for that. So I've been using this thing called React AI, which is a really cool, just little cheap tool that you can put in some ideas and it will generate some post ideas for you. You can even set parameters like 300 to 600 words, or, there's sweet spots inside LinkedIn for things like that, which I think are super important. Obviously, I fight between Perplexity for research. I fight between Claude for writing. Like if I'm writing an ebook, I use it as a collaboration tool where I don't use it to write for me. What I use it to do is improve my writing. So I've spent a lot of time building prompts that will say act as an editor, read mine. Do you understand it? Do I need to break this concept into more sentences? How do my thoughts become more clear? I think becoming a prompt engineer, which might be a short-lived process, but it will help anyone better understand how AI works, and it gets you way more mileage out of personal productivity. ChatGPT I like for a lot of things as well. Other ones I think I just mentioned for longer, I've been using this thing called Typeset. So it's app.typeset. That to me is just really good if you're trying to build like an ebook. You can't really do that in Canva very well. So doing something like an ebook, you just write it, and once you have it done and you don't even format it, you can put it up in the typeset. It'll automatically bring in pictures and allow you to edit it using AI on the fly. I love that. For marketing, I've been leaning into two products. One is seamless.ai. It's great for LinkedIn outreach and understanding your ICP. So I loved using that one for LinkedIn. And I love ActiveCampaign. I think it's probably one of the best AI generated email tools. I like instantly.ai. Honestly, David, Jesse, I could go on for hours. There's so many amazing tools out there right now. I say experiment with them all, because even if you don't want to use them long term, you could just use them for a little bit and test them. Like I've even had ones where it will test your headshots and it sends them to real people who rate you. So this headshot looks more trustworthy, has more authority, etc. versus this headshot. So my headshot on my LinkedIn performed the best. So it's super interesting, the tools that are now available to us to just amplify what we're already trying to do. And I feel like that's the first layer of AI, is amplification of what we're doing. And then I see these autonomous agents replacing some of the things we're doing. And then just, again, making us more efficient through time.
That is so cool. Well, it seems like all that time on Product Hunt has been very valuable for you, because you're learning about some of the best products. I've only heard of some of those. HeyGen is really awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that one.
Yeah.
Have you used it to like translate yourself into like multiple languages yet?
No, I haven't played with that piece. I've still been like, so there was like 4 or 5 of those AI kind of like render you into like that video state. And, I'm always looking, because they fail like lips and the area between like your nose and mouth. They just don't get that right yet.
Yeah.
And, like they're just not perfect for that. And then I think a lot of it was learning to like speak in one complete sentence, pause, one complete sentence, pause, to make it, process and work correctly. Again, I think what we see today will be completely changed in 6 months, and again, changed in 12 months. Like that tech is moving so fast, and to me, it's kind of scary, where, I think we were always comfortable, like, getting used to a product and then staying with it for a long period of time. And
Mhm.
now these products are usurping each other at such a
Mhm.
fast rate. I don't know how much staying power. And I don't know if you saw recently, the CEO of Microsoft came out and basically said, and David, you should love this. He basically said, look, all SaaS is going to be dead. What's going to happen is you're going to have a data layer, and you're going to have these autonomous agents accessing the data directly. So they're going to squash the SaaS UX, UI componentry out of it, and it's going to be a direct connection piece. And I looked at that and I'm like, yeah, the real reality is we're heading towards the death of SaaS, replaced by AI directly accessing data. And
Yeah.
to me, again, fascinating way. And obviously, I trust his vision, because if you think about it, he's having to disrupt himself. That means Excel goes away because of Copilot. You just ask questions of your data.
Mhm.
Word goes away. All the toolings that they built literally will be dismantled and become functional underpins of the AI inside the data.
Yeah, and that's why we built everything on our platform. Everything's API driven, so that it can plug into anything. That's we've sort of had the same thinking where we believe that data will drive everything, right? And so in order for it to drive everything, everybody needs to be able to connect into the data, whether that be applications or agents or whatever it is. And so that's always been our goal, and that's what has driven us in the past year to build APIs for everything that our platform can do. And so now we're talking and building partnerships with all kinds of companies that want to access data to do all kinds of crazy things. And we don't care, like, it doesn't matter how you want to use the data. It's, it's just about how you're going to pull it and have access to it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and that to me, that's that fascinating new world that's kind of exploding around us, right? That
Yeah.
this data, again, data to me is it's the oil, right? Like, it has to be put in, and you got to extract it, refine it, and then distribute it. And to me, that's that whole concept of like where these agentic agents and autonomous agents are going to really thrive over the next, Claude came out with the first computer use one, but I just see the proliferation of this at high speed. And, and the other thing I think we're having, I don't know, maybe it's me, we're hanging on to like sacred totems of how things have always operated, and we're trying to create new paths based on old logic, and I don't think that's going to work. I think we have to almost break this back to like first principles thinking, where, okay, what do I know is absolute fact, and I have to build a new truth off of it, because how we've operated in the past using SaaS tools and stuff is not how we're going to operate in the future. And to hang on to that logic is going to be detrimental to your business and your business's capability to grow.
It's interesting. It's going to be a good year for 2025. So thanks for letting us peek into the future a little bit, Todd. And in closing, would you like to let listeners know how they could find you?
Yeah, I'm easy to be found. I do not hide. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me at Todd Lear Smith, TODDLEAR Smith, SMITH on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter too, at Todd Lear Smith. So super easy to run me down. Or you could just email me. It's just Todd, TODD, at CoreAI, QOREAI.com.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, we really appreciate you joining us today, Todd. This has been a great conversation. It's great catching up with you again after several years of working together. And I'm going to let Jesse close this out for us.
And I will do that. I'm going to pull our QR code, hopefully the correct QR code up today. And if you're listening to this on podcast, you can just go to beatx.com, and we empower you to click the talk to an expert button so that we can help you power your audience. So we want to help you build authentic connections with your audience and drive unprecedented engagement in 2025. And so just imagine harnessing the power of AI, like we were talking about today, to craft your audiences that truly resonate with your brand. So this ensures that your marketing hits the mark every time. Because if you don't know your audience, then you really don't have anything. So that's where we want to help you bridge the gap. So visit beatx.com, click the Talk to an Expert button, and get powered by Beatx. And also for those who are interested in sharing a person who you think might make a great guest on the show, please share their name and information to us at info@beatx.com. And if you have any other thoughts about the show, share it with us at info@beatx.com and share your qualitative data with us so we can make it better for you. But thanks again, Todd, for coming on and being our first 2025 guest and kicking us off on a strong note.
Thank you so much for having me both. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Have a good one.